Admiral Catherine Wright stood at the large window of Earth Defense Command Center, her eyes fixed on the night sky. The stars looked the same as they always had, peaceful, distant, silent. She knew better now. "Admiral, you need to see this." Jack Monroe's voice broke the quiet of the room. His face looked pale in the blue light of his screen. Catherine walked over, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. The screen showed a large object at the edge of the solar system. It had appeared from nowhere. None of their early warning systems had picked it up. "How big is it?" she asked, feeling her heart beat faster. "Enormous," Jack said. "Bigger than anything we've ever built, and it's not alone." More dots appeared on the screen, smaller ships coming out from the large one. Catherine reached for the comlink on her wrist. "Get me the president," she said. "Now." The room burst into action. People ran between stations. Voices called out reports. Screens lit up all around them. Catherine kept her face calm even as her mind raced. Humanity had wondered for years if they were alone in the universe. Today they had their answer. Across the world, screens flickered to life without warning. TVs, phones, computers, all showed the same image. A being with gray-blue skin and 4 eyes. It wore something like armor with strange symbols. When it spoke, its voice was deep and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "People of Earth, I am Lord Zaviran of the Galactic Hegemony. Your planet is now under our control. You have 30 cycles to surrender. Resistance will mean your end." The message played over and over in every language on Earth. In the White House, President Lisa Goodman looked at Catherine's face on her screen. "Tell me we can fight them," she said. Catherine looked at the data flowing across her screens. The alien ships had technology far beyond Earth's best weapons. "Madam President, we are outmatched," she said, "but we need time. There's something strange about their communications. I need our best people looking at this." While world leaders argued about what to do, Catherine noticed patterns in the alien signals. They were advanced, yes, but there was something odd about how they transmitted data, like they were using tools they hadn't built themselves. At the same time, in a small observatory in Chile, Dr. Alan Martinez adjusted his telescope. He had been tracking the alien ships since they appeared. Now he noticed strange energy pulses coming from the mother ship. They were scanning Earth, but with special focus on the oceans. "Carmen, look at this," he called to his assistant. "They're very interested in the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of our ocean." Carmen looked at the readings. "Why would aliens care about our oceans?" "I don't know," Alan said, "but I'm sending this to Defense Command right away." The data reached Catherine within minutes. She called Jack to her office and showed him. "The Mariana Trench," she said. "What could be down there that interests them?" Jack shook his head. "We've never fully explored the deepest parts. Too much pressure. But if these aliens are so advanced, they might know something we don't," Catherine finished. She picked up her secure phone. "Get me Navy Command. We need a submarine team ready immediately." 12 hours later, Navy Specialist Susan Carter stood on the deck of the USS Defender, America's most advanced submarine. Her team of 6 sailors prepared to dive into the darkest waters on Earth. "The aliens are watching the oceans closely now," Catherine told Susan over video link. "You'll need to stay deep and quiet. Find out what they're looking for." Susan nodded. "We'll find it, Admiral." As the submarine slipped beneath the waves, Catherine returned to studying the alien communications. Jack worked beside her, both of them going without sleep as they looked for any weakness. "Their tech is amazing," Jack said, rubbing his tired eyes. "But look here, they use these same patterns over and over. It's like they're following a rule book without understanding why." Catherine leaned closer. "You're right. It's as if they're using technology they didn't create. Copy and paste, not true understanding." Across the world, fear spread. The hegemony ships remained in position, but everyone knew they could attack at any moment. Some people panicked, others prayed. Many looked to their leaders for answers that didn't exist. In the war room, President Goodman met with leaders from every nation via secure link. "We must stand together," she said. "This affects all humanity." Most agreed, but some wanted to surrender immediately. Catherine watched silently from her place at the table, Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Susan's submarine approached the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Their lights showed only darkness ahead. Then something reflected the light back at them. "What is that?" Susan whispered, leaning toward the view screen. The object was smooth and clearly not natural. It looked like metal, but nothing that should exist this deep in the ocean. And it was huge. "Are those doors?" asked Ryan, one of her crew. Susan nodded slowly. "I think they are." She ordered the submarine closer. As they approached, the doors began to move. They were opening after what might have been millions of years underwater. "Admiral, we found something," Susan reported back to Catherine. "It's artificial, it's ancient, and it just opened for us." Catherine felt a chill run down her spine. "Can you see inside?" "Yes," Susan said, her voice filled with wonder. "There's a structure, a base or outpost of some kind, and it has power after all this time." "Proceed with extreme caution," Catherine ordered. The submarine entered the underwater structure. Lights came on as they moved forward, activated by their presence. They found an airlock that still worked. Susan and 2 crew members put on diving gear and entered. Inside, they found a control room with strange symbols that somehow looked familiar. When Susan touched a panel, the whole room lit up. A hologram appeared in the center, a being neither human nor like the hegemony aliens. "Greetings," it said in perfect English, though its mouth didn't move. "I am Sentinel. My systems detect that the hegemony has returned. You are in grave danger." Susan stared at the hologram. "What are you? How do you know our language?" "I have been monitoring your world's communications while dormant," Sentinel said. "I was placed here to warn of the hegemony's return. They have found your world, as I feared they eventually would." "Can you help us fight them?" Susan asked. The hologram seemed to consider this. "Perhaps, but first you must understand who they really are, and what they fear most." Above them, in space, the hegemony ships began to move. The 30 cycles were counting down, and Earth was running out of time. Susan stared at Sentinel, the strange hologram that floated before her in the underwater base. Her crew members stood frozen behind her, their faces showing both fear and wonder. "The hegemony is not what they appear to be," Sentinel continued. "They did not create their technology. They stole it from worlds they conquered over thousands of years." Susan pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself. The air in the ancient facility felt thick and strange. "If they stole their technology, that means they might not fully understand it," she said, her mind racing. "That could be a weakness." "Correct," Sentinel replied. "They use what they take but comprehend little. This facility contains a quantum communication device that can reach the surviving remnants of my creators." Susan activated her comm link. "Admiral Wright, are you receiving this?" Catherine's voice came through with some static. "Every word. Ask about these creators." "My creators fled to the far edges of the galaxy when the early hegemony rose to power," Sentinel explained as if hearing Catherine directly. "They hide, waiting for the day when resistance becomes possible. Your world may be that opportunity. Back." At Defense Command, Catherine and Jack looked at each other. Hope flickered for the first time since the alien ships appeared. "We need to buy time," Catherine said. "Jack, organize strike teams. Small, fast ships hitting their scouts. Nothing major, just enough to distract them." Jack nodded. "What about this communication device?" "We need to get it working," Catherine said. "And we need our best scientist on it." Within hours, Dr. Alan Martinez was on a military transport heading for the nearest naval base. From there, a high-speed submarine would take him to join Susan's team. Meanwhile, the first human resistance against the hegemony began. Jack led a squadron of 12 small fighter jets against a hegemony scout ship entering Earth's atmosphere. The alien ship was faster and more powerful, but the human pilots flew with desperate courage. "Aim for the same spot every time," Jack ordered through his headset as they swooped around the larger vessel. Their shields seemed weaker at the thruster joints. 5 Earth fighters went down in flames, but the scout ship eventually retreated with heavy damage. When the pilots returned to base, they were greeted as heroes. A small victory, but important for morale. Catherine knew these fights were just a distraction. The real hope lay beneath the ocean waves. Dr. Martinez arrived at the underwater facility and immediately began studying the alien technology with Susan's help. The quantum communication device was unlike anything humans had built, operating on scientific principles they had barely theorized. "It's like finding a smartphone in ancient Rome," Alan said as he carefully examined the controls. "But Sentinel is helping me understand the basics." Sentinel's hologram hovered nearby. "My systems were designed to be intuitive for any intelligent species. You learn quickly for such a young civilization." While they worked, the hegemony made their next move. 3 larger ships descended to Earth, landing in remote locations: the Sahara Desert, the Siberian wilderness, and an island in the South Pacific. They established bases with frightening speed. Catherine received reports from drones watching these outposts. "They're taking resources, but also looking for something," she told President Goodman. "Sentinel says they always do this. Strip mining planets while searching for ancient technology they can steal." The president looked tired on the video screen. "How much time do we have?" "Less than 20 cycles now," Catherine said. "About 15 Earth days." "The world is panicking," President Goodman said. "Some nations are talking about surrendering independently." "We need everyone to hold together," Catherine urged. "Please, Madam President, just a little longer." The next day, Jack's team captured something unexpected: a living hegemony soldier. During a skirmish over the Atlantic, a small alien craft crashed. The pilot survived and was brought to a secure facility. Catherine stood outside the cell looking at the alien through reinforced glass. Up close, the being looked less frightening, smaller than a human with 4 eyes that blinked nervously. "I'm Admiral Wright," she said through a translator. "Do you understand me?" The alien nodded slowly. "I am Private Kell of the 3rd Hegemony Fleet." His voice sounded strangely musical through the translation system. "Why has your empire come to our planet?" Catherine asked. Kell looked down. "We go where the Council commands. I am just a soldier." Something in his tone made Catherine pause. "You don't sound very loyal to your leaders." The alien's 4 eyes widened, then narrowed. "My homeworld was conquered 3 generations ago. We serve because we must." This information changed everything. Catherine contacted Jack immediately. The hegemony forces include conquered species. They're not all willing participants. Jack understood what that meant. Potential allies from within. Catherine nodded. "Exactly. And Kell might tell us more about how their ships work." Deep in the ocean facility, Alan made a breakthrough with the quantum device. Sentinel had been guiding him through the alien systems, and they discovered that a human brain could interface with the technology through a neural link. "It's risky," Alan told Susan, "but someone needs to connect with it to calibrate the message." Susan volunteered immediately. "I'll do it. Tell me how." Alan placed a small circular device on Susan's temple. It adhered to her skin, feeling cold, at first, then warm. When activated, Susan gasped as information flooded her mind: star maps, coordinates, and strange symbols. "I can see them," she whispered. "The survivors. They're scattered across so many systems." Sentinel's hologram glowed brighter. "You are connecting with the network. Now we must compose the message, not just a call for help, but information about the hegemony's weaknesses." At that moment, alarms blared through the facility. Sentinel's image flickered. "Hegemony vessels approaching," the AI announced. "They have detected our energy signature." Susan snapped back to the present. "How long do we have?" "Hours at most," Sentinel replied. "They will destroy this facility to prevent contact with my creators." Susan activated her comlink. "Admiral Wright, we need protection down here. And we need it now." Catherine's voice was firm. "Help is already on the way. Whatever you're doing, finish it. This might be our only chance." In orbit, More hegemony ships moved into position. Earth had just days left before the deadline, but now, even that time was in danger. The race to send the warning that could save not just Earth but the entire galaxy had begun. Catherine paced the command center floor, her eyes fixed on the large screen showing the ocean above the ancient facility. 3 hegemony ships hovered over the water, their weapons ready to fire. "How many submarines do we have in the area?" she asked Jack. 5, he replied. "But they're no match for those ships." Catherine nodded. "They don't need to win. They just need to distract them long enough for Susan and Dr. Martinez to finish their work." She turned to the alien prisoner, Kel, who stood nearby under guard. In the 2 days since his capture, he had provided valuable information about hegemony. "Tactics. Those ships," Catherine said, pointing to the screen. "What are their blind spots?" Kel stepped closer, his 4 eyes narrowing. "They cannot track well underwater, and their sensors have trouble with extreme heat signatures." Catherine smiled for the first time in days. "Then we give them heat." She ordered underwater volcanoes to be triggered near the trench using depth charges. It was risky, but they needed cover. At the same time, the submarines would launch missiles not at the ships, but at the water around them, creating massive steam clouds to blind their sensors. Meanwhile, deep below, Susan worked with Alan and Sentinel to prepare the quantum message. The neural link on her temple glowed softly as she processed vast amounts of alien data. "We need to move the facility," Sentinel announced suddenly. "The hegemony will destroy this location soon. Move it?" Alan looked shocked. "How can we move an entire underwater base?" "This structure was designed to be mobile," Sentinel explained. "My creators built it to hide from the hegemony. It can travel through the ocean depths undetected." Susan made a quick decision. "Do it. Where can we go?" "There is a deep underwater canyon off the western coast of your continent," Sentinel said. "We can hide there while completing the message." As the facility rumbled to life, ancient engines powering up after millions of years, the battle began. Far above them, Earth submarines launched their attack, creating a massive distraction of explosions and steam. The hegemony ships fired into the chaos but hit nothing important. The underwater base moved with surprising speed through the ocean's depths. Inside, Susan, Alan, and the small crew held on as the structure shook around them. "Keep working on the message," Susan told Alan. "I'll make sure we get to safety." Back at Defense Command, Catherine received word that the facility was on the move. "They bought some time," she told President Goodman over the secure line. "But the hegemony is spreading faster than we expected." Reports flowed in from around the world. The alien bases were expanding. They were taking Earth's resources and, more worryingly, beginning to round up human scientists and engineers. "They're doing exactly what Sentinel warned about," Catherine said. "Taking our best minds just like they did on other worlds. They harvest knowledge before full conquest." President Goodman looked grim on the screen. "We need to rescue those people." "I'm already planning it," Catherine assured her. Jack had assembled a strike team for just this purpose. Among them was Patrick Hayes, an explosives expert, and Maria Johnson, a communications specialist who had been studying the hegemony's transmission patterns. "Their main detention center is here," Jack said, pointing to a map showing a facility in what used to be a university campus. "They're holding at least 50 scientists and engineers." "What's the plan?" Patrick asked, checking his gear. "We go in fast and quiet," Jack replied. "Maria has found a way to disrupt their alarm systems temporarily. We'll have exactly 8 minutes to get our people out." The rescue mission launched that night. Jack's team moved through the shadows around the hegemony detention center. Maria used a device she had built based on Sentinel's technology to create a brief window in the alien security system. "Now," she whispered. The team moved in swiftly, neutralizing 4 hegemony guards with stun weapons. Inside, they found the captured humans in large, transparent cells. "We're getting you out," Jack told them as Patrick worked on the cell doors. "Stay quiet and move fast." Among the prisoners was Dr. Eric Phillips, a theoretical physicist whose work on quantum mechanics was years ahead of anyone else on Earth. Catherine had specifically asked for him to be found. "They wanted my research," Eric told Jack as they escaped. They kept asking about quantum entanglement theories. That's exactly what we need help with, Jack said. There's someone you need to meet. The underwater facility had reached its new hiding place, a deep canyon that shielded its energy signature from hegemony sensors. Susan welcomed the rescued scientists, especially Dr. Phillips. We need your help with this, she said, showing him the quantum communication device. We can send a message across the galaxy, but we need to make sure it reaches as many worlds as possible. Eric studied the alien technology with wonder. This operates on principles I've only theorized about. With this, we could create a network effect, having each receiving station amplify and retransmit the message. Sentinel's hologram appeared beside them. That is possible. My creators built redundancy into their communication systems. While they worked, Kel provided Catherine with more critical information. In a private meeting, the alien leaned close and spoke quietly. There is something the hegemony fears above all else, he said. They call them the Forgotten. Sentinels. Creators? Catherine asked. Kel nodded. The Council speaks of them with dread. They fear their return. That is why they continue to conquer, not just for resources, but to find and destroy any trace of the Forgotten's technology. Like the underwater facility, Catherine realized. Exactly, Kel said. If they knew what you had found, they would destroy your entire planet rather than let you contact the Forgotten. The hegemony deadline was now just 10 days away. Across Earth, people watched the skies with fear as more alien ships arrived daily. Some nations had begun evacuating their cities. Others prepared for a hopeless last stand. But in the underwater canyon, hope grew stronger. The combined knowledge of Earth's greatest scientific minds and Sentinel's ancient wisdom was creating something powerful, a message that would not just call for help, but would share everything humanity had learned about the hegemony's weaknesses. We need to test it, Eric said after days of work. Susan nodded and placed the neural link on her temple again. The device hummed to life, connecting her mind to the quantum network. I can feel it, she whispered. It's ready. But at that moment, alarms blared through the facility. Sentinel's hologram flickered urgently. Multiple hegemony ships approaching, the AI announced. They have found us. Susan stared at the flashing red lights as the alarm continued to sound throughout the underwater facility. Sentinel's hologram flickered with urgency. We have minutes before they are directly above us, the AI warned. Their weapons can penetrate, even at this depth. Dr. Martinez looked at the quantum communication device, still only partially ready. We need more time. Then we'll have to move again, Susan decided. She turned to Dr. Phillips. Can you finish the preparations while we're moving? The physicist nodded. I think so, but where can we go? They seem to be tracking us somehow. Sentinel's hologram expanded, showing a map of the ocean floor. There is one more option. My creators built a secondary facility beneath your landmass, what you call the Rocky Mountains. Under mountains? Susan asked in surprise. How do we get there from here? There are underwater passages, Sentinel explained. Ancient waterways that connect to underground rivers. The facility can navigate them, but it will be difficult. Susan made the call to Catherine over their secure link. Admiral, we need to move the facility to the Rocky Mountains location. Sentinel says there's a safer base there. Catherine processed this information quickly. Do it. I'll send Jack and a team to meet you at the exit point. You'll need protection for the land journey to the mountain facility. The ancient base shuddered as its engines powered up again. Just as the hegemony ships positioned themselves overhead, the facility slipped away into a narrow underwater canyon. Susan felt the walls shake around them as they moved deeper into the Earth. Above in orbit, more hegemony ships had arrived. The deadline was now just 7 days away, and they were clearly preparing for full invasion. Catherine gathered Earth's remaining military leaders for an emergency meeting. We need one major distraction, she told them. Everything we have left. Not to win, that's impossible, but to buy time for the message to be sent. General Richard Owen, commander of the Air Force, nodded grimly. A suicide mission, then? For some of us, yes, Catherine admitted. I'll lead it myself. The plan was desperate but clear. Every remaining military aircraft and spacecraft would launch a coordinated attack on the main hegemony ship. Not to destroy it, they couldn't, but to keep the aliens busy and draw attention away from the Rocky Mountains. Meanwhile, the underwater facility navigated through the ancient passages. The journey was treacherous, with narrow tunnels barely wide, enough for the structure to pass through. After nearly a day of travel, they reached the exit point, an underground river that emerged from a cave at the base of the Rockies. Jack was waiting with trucks and a small team of soldiers when the facility surfaced. Susan, Dr. Martinez, Dr. Phillips, and the others quickly loaded the essential components of the quantum device onto the vehicles. "We have about 12 hours before they track us here," Jack told Susan as they drove up winding mountain roads. "Catherine is launching the distraction in 10 hours. Susan looked at the communication device components in the back of the truck. "We'll be ready." High in the mountains, they found the entrance to the second facility, a seamless door built into the rock face that responded to Sentinel's signal. Inside, they discovered a smaller but more advanced version of the underwater base. "This was my creator's last outpost on Earth," Sentinel explained, as the hologram reappeared inside the mountain facility. "From here, the quantum signal will be stronger, with less interference from your planet's core." Dr. Phillips and Dr. Martinez worked frantically to reassemble the communication device at the highest point in the facility. Maria Johnson, who had come with Jack's team, discovered she could use her knowledge of hegemony communications to strengthen the signal. "If we broadcast at exactly the right frequency," she explained, "we can piggyback on their own network. They'll actually help spread our message without realizing it." Time was running out. Catherine prepared to lead Earth's final military strike. Thousands of pilots and soldiers volunteered, knowing many would not return. Before leaving command, Catherine spoke one last time with President Goodman. "If we don't succeed," she said, "the message still needs to go out. The coordinates for the mountain facility are in this file. Send whatever forces you have left to protect it." The president nodded solemnly. "Godspeed, Admiral." Catherine took command of Earth's largest remaining battleship. As they launched toward the hegemony fleet, she thought about how, just 2 weeks ago, she had been watching a peaceful night sky. On the main hegemony ship, Lord Zaveron received reports of the approaching Earth forces. "They are so primitive," he said to his commanders. "Yet they resist when they should submit." "They are unusual," agreed his second-in-command. "Our scans show they are attempting to use some of their vessels as sacrifices to protect others." Lord Zaveron's 4 eyes narrowed. "A distraction? Scan the planet for unusual energy signatures. They are hiding something." In the mountain facility, Susan stood with Dr. Phillips as the final adjustments were made to the quantum device. Outside, Patrick Hayes and his team placed explosives at strategic points along the mountain passes. Not to hurt anyone, but to trigger avalanches that would block access if hegemony ground forces approached. "The device is ready," Dr. Phillips announced. "But someone needs to connect to it. The neural link needs a human mind to organize the data and direct the message." Susan stepped forward without hesitation. "I've done it before. I'll do it again." The small device was placed on her temple once more. This time the connection felt stronger, more overwhelming. Susan gasped as her consciousness expanded, touching minds across vast distances. "I can feel them," she whispered. "So many worlds, so many enslaved people." Dr. Martinez monitored her vital signs with concern. "Her heart rate is too high. This might be dangerous." "We don't have a choice," Jack said, watching the radar screens. "Catherine's distraction has begun, but they're already scanning this area. We have minutes at most." In space, Catherine's forces engaged the hegemony fleet in a desperate battle. Earthships fell by the dozens, but they fought with unexpected skill, targeting the same weak points Kell had revealed. The hegemony, unused to such determined resistance, found themselves actually struggling. "Admiral," called her communications officer, "we're picking up unusual energy readings from the mountains." Catherine smiled. "Good. Keep their attention here as long as possible." Back in the mountain facility, Susan felt her mind connecting to the quantum network. Sentinel guided her, helping her compose the message. Not just a plea for help, but a warning to all free worlds about the hegemony's weaknesses, along with humanity's collective knowledge and the ancient wisdom from Sentinel's archives. "It's ready," Susan said, her voice sounding distant and strange. "On your mark." Outside, the first hegemony ships appeared on the horizon, heading straight for the mountains. "Now," Jack ordered. "Send it now." Susan closed her eyes as the quantum device activated. Energy surged through her mind, connecting her to the vast network that spanned the galaxy. The message, containing Earth's warning, the hegemony's weaknesses, and Sentinel's ancient knowledge, pulsed outward, traveling instantly across impossible distances. "It's working," Dr. Phillips whispered, watching the readouts. "The signal is stronger than we expected." In that moment, the mountain shook as hegemony weapons struck nearby peaks. Jack looked at the radar screen, his face grim. "They found us. Hayes, trigger the avalanches." Outside, Patrick Hayes activated the explosives placed along the mountain passes. Massive snowslides thundered down, blocking the most direct routes to the facility. It would buy them minutes, perhaps, but not much more. In space, Catherine's forces fought with desperate courage. Her ship took heavy damage, but they had managed to destroy 3 hegemony scout vessels and damage one of their larger cruisers. It wasn't a victory, but it was far more resistance than the hegemony had encountered from any world in centuries. "Admiral," called her communications officer through the smoke filling the bridge. "We're picking up strange energy readings. Not from Earth, from deep space." Catherine moved to the scanner station. New objects were appearing at the edge of the solar system. Many objects. Ships of designs they had never seen before. "Is it?" Catherine began. "The message," Susan whispered in the mountain facility, her mind still connected to the quantum network. "They heard us. They're coming." The first response came not as ships, but as a reply through the quantum network. Susan gasped as new information flooded her mind. Coordinates, technical specifications, and tactical data from dozens of civilizations who had received Earth's message. "They're sharing their knowledge," she told the others. "Just like we shared ours. Species from across the galaxy, all with pieces of information about the hegemony's weaknesses." Dr. Martinez monitored the data flow with amazement. "It's more than we could have hoped for. They're not just coming to help. They're creating an alliance." In orbit, the new arrivals began to engage the hegemony fleet. Ships of incredible diversity, some organic-looking, others geometric and crystalline, some barely visible except for the energy they emitted, moved with precision, targeting the specific weaknesses Earth had identified in their message. Lord Zavaran watched in growing horror as ships appeared around his fleet, cutting off escape routes. His commanders reported the impossible. Vessels from civilizations thought long extinct or thoroughly conquered. "The forgotten," he whispered. "They have returned." Catherine's damaged ship received a transmission in a strange language that somehow translated itself in their communication system. "People of Earth," came a voice unlike any human had heard before. "Your warning has reached us. For too long we have hidden, each thinking we were alone against the hegemony. You have united us. Now we stand together." The battle in space shifted dramatically. The hegemony ships, facing coordinated attacks from dozens of different species, began to retreat. Some surrendered outright, their crews, many from conquered worlds like Kel's, refusing to fight any longer. In the mountain facility, Jack received the news with disbelief. "We're winning. How is that possible?" Susan smiled weakly as Dr. Phillips removed the neural link from her temple. "Not just us. Everyone. All the worlds they conquered or threatened. We just needed to talk to each other." Sentinel's hologram glowed with what almost looked like pride. "My creators would be pleased. This was always their hope, that someday the divided worlds would find common cause." 3 days later, Catherine stood in the control room of the hegemony flagship. Lord Zavaran and his commanders had been captured, The ship itself was now under the control of a coalition of former hegemony subjects and the newly arrived allies. "The hegemony has controlled this region of space for thousands of years," said a tall, slender being named Thal, from a world that had been among the first to respond to Earth's message. Their empire stretched across nearly a third of the galaxy. "How did they maintain control for so long?" Catherine asked. "Fear," said Kel, who stood nearby with others from his homeworld who had arrived with the Liberation Fleet, "and the appearance of overwhelming power." Another alien, a small blue-skinned creature named Ziv, nodded. Their technology was impressive, but much of their supposed strength was illusion. Their ruling council was mostly holograms. The real leaders died centuries ago. Catherine looked out the viewport at Earth glowing blue below them. "And now?" "Now we build something new," said Thal. "A coalition of free worlds. Your Earth will have a prominent place if you wish it. Without your warning, none of this would have happened." President Goodman joined Catherine on the flagship the next day for the first meeting of what would become the Galactic Alliance. Representatives from over 50 worlds gathered in the former Hegemony Command Center. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," President Goodman told the assembled delegates. "Not just for Earth, but for all our worlds." Susan, Jack, and their team were honored as heroes. Dr. Martinez and Dr. Phillips were already working with scientists from a dozen different species, combining their knowledge to create technologies that would benefit all. Sentinel had been moved from the mountain facility to a new home aboard one of the coalition ships. The ancient AI would serve as advisor to the newly formed alliance, its knowledge of the past helping to guide the future. 1 month after the hegemony ships had first appeared over Earth, Catherine stood on the observation deck of a new vessel, built with combined technologies from many worlds. The ship named Unity was Earth's first true starship. "Where to first, Admiral?" asked Jack, who would serve as her second in command on this historic journey. Catherine looked out at the stars, no longer distant or silent to her eyes. "Everywhere," she said with a smile. "We have friends waiting to meet us." Beside her, Sentinel's hologram glowed softly. "You know," the AI said, "the hegemony never understood the true strength of the worlds they conquered. They saw only resources to take, technology to steal." "What did they miss?" Catherine asked. "That the greatest power in the universe is not weapons or technology," Sentinel replied. "It is the will of free people to stand together against tyranny. That is what your warning truly awakened, not just my creators or the other hidden species, but the spirit of resistance that had been sleeping in conquered worlds for centuries." The Unity's engines hummed to life, ready to carry humanity to the stars not as conquerors, but as partners in the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever known. The warning that changed the galaxy forever wasn't just about the hegemony's technical weaknesses. It was the simple, powerful truth that freedom, once ignited, cannot be extinguished.